Hey there, Jake here from CVP. Today we are taking a look at DJI's new SDR wireless video system. This new system features a full-size HDMI and SDI port, a claim range of up to 3 kilometers, integration into the existing Ronin ecosystem, all in a compact, lightweight unit, priced at a pretty competitive £519 for the TXRX set. So is this the new standard for affordable video transmission? Let's take a look. DJI have been creating wireless video solutions for a while now with their drones and gimbals, and with the Ronin 4D, they introduced their own wireless video TXRX set, which is aimed at a slightly more professional end user than this new SDR system. This new system is aimed at smaller crew environments, but it actually has some unique features that the transmission system doesn't. Before getting into the actual units themselves, let's take a look at some testing, starting off by looking at the range. The SDR set has 3 different connection modes. You can connect to the transmitter via Wi-Fi with a phone or tablet, and then you can connect an RX to the TX in broadcast or control mode using the SDR transmission. DJI have their own set of estimated ranges, but these are in the most ideal conditions possible with true line of sight and no interference. It's hard to really test range comprehensively as so much can affect a wireless video signal and overall performance. However, we did manage to run down to the beautiful bushy park to see how far we could walk from the transmitter in the 2 different SDR modes. We started with broadcast mode, where we managed to get about 700 meters before the signal cut out. The system will lower bitrate and frame rate to deal with the weaker signal before disconnecting completely. In control mode, we managed about 1,200 meters, which is pretty impressive for such a low-cost solution. For our Wi-Fi range testing, we did this just outside our office in Brentford. With a good line of sight in this situation, we managed to get just over 100 meters away, which, considering that we aren't exactly in the middle of nowhere in a perfect line of sight, is pretty good. These results are not quite the figures stated by DJI, but considering their quoted numbers are best case scenario, I think they perform really well. We also wanted to see how the system performed in our warehouse to simulate an interior location or office style shooting environment. For this, we set up the transmitter on our S5 II in our office, and then walked away from it with the receiver connected to a monitor in both broadcast and control mode and Wi-Fi to my iPhone. Starting in broadcast mode, we managed to get about 25 meters from the TX before losing the signal, but this was through at least 3 walls and a bunch of stuff. Weirdly, this was the exact position that we lost the Wi-Fi signal to. In control mode, we managed to get about 40 meters away, which was almost all the way to the back of our warehouse and through a bunch more walls and loads of stock. So if you're in an environment like this where you still need to have access while being on the other side of a wall, you should be fine. But if you want the best performance for this, make sure to chuck it into control mode. Right, let's take a look at some latency testing. DJI actually rate the SDR system to have a minimum of 35 milliseconds of delay when using the regular TXRX connection, and when in Wi-Fi mode, that jumps up to around 110 milliseconds. So let's actually take a look at how it performs. For this testing, we have the TX and RX just over a meter away from each other and have our little timer going in the middle. To really gauge how much latency there is in the system, we first need to calculate the latency up to the RX getting an SDI feed. The latency of our Komodo X sending a feed out to our Portkeys BM53 via SDI is roughly 110 milliseconds. There will be some latency that the Portkeys is introducing, but this is just kind of a baseline to show you the kind of latency you can expect with this kind of combination. So when we look at the overall latency from our timer to the RX screen, we can take that total and subtract 110 milliseconds to get a rough number of the system latency across the different modes. As well as the regular transmission modes, there is also a low latency mode, where you can get a pretty significant improvement in performance. Looking at the results, we can see that across the different modes it performs really well, especially when in low latency mode. So if you want to get the lowest latency, make sure that you're in this mode. I've asked DJI how they're achieving this. When I find out, I'll put it in the pinned comment below. Latency is a bit of a minefield to navigate, so your overall system latency with this may differ because of a few factors. But hopefully, these numbers can give you a rough idea of how the SDR performs. One thing we noticed during our test is that when in the low latency mode, this only changes the latency for the SDI and HDMI output, not via the USB-C output. When shooting our latency test, we also chucked a DJI Mic 2 set near the setup to see how it would affect performance. This was in the SDR's control mode, and we can see that there isn't really any glitching while the wireless audio set was transmitting at the same time as the SDR, though this isn't a comprehensive test. We also wanted to see how the image quality compared between the camera's feed to one fed out from the SDR receiver. So for this we fed the SDR and Raptor X directly into an Atomos Sumo and recorded both feeds simultaneously so we can have a look at them. Without too much movement, I think they both look pretty similar, though maybe the SDI feed looks a bit more detailed. You can also see a difference in yellow saturation in the details of the trees. Where we can see a much larger difference is when I start waving my hand in front of the camera. It might be quite hard to see on YouTube after compression, but if we zoom in you can see clear compression blocking on the wireless feed, which isn't there on the SDI feed. Overall though, I think the image quality is pretty good. Right, so that's all of our testing done. If you have any more questions about the performance, let us know in the comments below, and let's take a walk around each of the units. The TX and RX are differentiated easily thanks to their different body and label colours, the TX being black and blue, and then the RX being grey and red. The units themselves are the same size and weight and feature an almost identical layout and design. On the front you have a familiar touchscreen, which is how you control the units. There is also an exhaust here, with the intake being on the top of the unit. On the back you have the MPF battery plate for powering the unit. DJI states that it has a roughly 8.3 watt power draw, which means a new nice fresh MPF 970 should last well over 12 hours. And while we don't have concrete numbers, from our testing using it, the MPFs we used kept it powered as long as we needed it to. If you don't have any MPF batteries and are looking to get some, I would really suggest looking at ones with digital displays on them to show power remaining. On the left you have both a full-size HDMI and a 3G SDI, these being inputs on the TX and outputs on the RX. Unfortunately you have no cross conversion on the TX, which would have been nice. However, you can across the set, so if you feed a HDMI into the transmitter, you can actually output USB-C, HDMI or SDI, and this doesn't affect the latency either. When connected to an RX, you can output via USB-C, HDMI and SDI simultaneously, which is nice. When using the SDI, you are able to transmit metadata via SDI from cinema cameras from the likes of Arri and Red. There is also a QR code here which details the unit's serial number. On the right of the unit you have the on-off switch, the button for linking units, you hold it down to link or tap it to lock the touchscreen. You then have two USB-C ports, one for data and one for power. This means that you can power it from a range of USB-C sources, including certain Ronin gimbals, and also output to a phone or tablet running the app at the same time. You then have a 3.5mm headphone jack. This can be used as talkback between the TX and RX, which is a pretty cool feature. However, this only works when the receiver is in control mode. It works well though, and could be a very handy thing to have. You can adjust the volume of this in the menu of the units. On the bottom you have a 1/4" thread with two locating pins, which means mounting this will be easy for a range of different configurations. You of course also have the antennas, which are along the top and the sides. These fold out and give me serious drone vibes. However, one thing worth being wary of is that they cannot be removed. They are fixed onto the units. I've asked DJI what the process is if someone breaks an antenna, as that is insanely common to see with wireless video systems, and normally you can just buy spare antennas and switch them out no worries. I really wish these were user replaceable, as it would have been so much easier for people to fix themselves if they did ever break them. Anyway, if you do buy or use this system ever, just make sure that you're a bit more careful with them. If you get the TX-RX bundle, it comes with a mount for attaching a TX to a gimbal and a monitor mount for an RX. If you want to mount the RX to a phone or tablet, you'll be able to pick up one of the optional mounts, which will allow you to pretty nicely mount them onto each other. Both the tablet and phone mounts feel well built and serve their purpose well. On the touchscreen of the units, you can access a good amount of controls. You can swipe up to bring up SDR channel selection, down for the full menu, and on the TX left to right to bring up the QR code needed to connect a phone or tablet using the Ronin app. If you swipe up here, it will reveal the Wi-Fi network details of the TX2. The menu has a bunch to control. You can toggle Wi-Fi on and off, toggle broadcast mode, toggle color bar output, and control the speed and behavior of the fan. This is helpful as the fan can get pretty audible. It sounds like it's quite small. You can toggle between standard, low, high, and rec low. Standard mode seems to adapt the speed of the fan to adjust to the internal temperature of the unit. Low and high are both different constant speeds, and rec low uses the trigger from certain cameras to slow down the fan when recording and then speed it back up when not. This will require the camera to be connected to the TX and for it to be compatible, which is available to see in DJI's camera control compatibility list. In the RX's menu, you can change between the different connection modes and toggle the low latency mode. The SDR system integrates quite nicely into a few of DJI's existing ecosystems, such as the RS4, RS4 Pro, and even the RS3 Pro, where you can easily mount it and even power it via these gimbals. However, it doesn't integrate with their existing transmission system or new Focus Pro. You can actually connect a phone or tablet to the systems via Wi-Fi directly to the TX, or you can connect to an RX via its USB-C port. This means you can use accessories to mount the RX to a tablet or phone and use the SDR transmission instead of Wi-Fi. This is a great option to have if you want the range and latency improvements of SDR over Wi-Fi while using a phone or tablet, which do have their benefits over regular monitors and will enable you to control your camera and Ronin wirelessly. The app you use to interface with the system is the Ronin app. Once you're loaded into the app, you'll be able to do quite a decent range of things, but it is nice and simple. This includes camera control with certain cameras, certain Ronin controls, a range of monitoring tools including zebras, false color, peaking, customizable LUTs and a waveform. With camera control, DJI have a compatibility list which is available on their website. There are a bunch that seem to work well, and this could be very handy for plenty of people at productions. You can also record local video clips of your feed, which could be helpful as well. There are also a few other extra settings that you can control as well. When connected to one of the Ronins we mentioned earlier, you can also control them in a few different ways, which is pretty cool, especially when in the system's SDR mode. The DJI SDR is an impressive affordable wireless video system. It's small, lightweight, versatile, and performs really well. Having the ability to control your Ronin and camera wirelessly for this price is pretty awesome, and could be a killer feature for some. For those wanting a system that will integrate a little more into DJI's existing Pro ecosystem, it may be worth stepping up to their slightly more expensive transmission system. However, for people wanting a more affordable solution that can still integrate well with slightly lower end systems, the SDR is a great option. Anyway, let us know what you think of DJI's new SDR system, and if you have any further questions about it in the comments below. And if you like the video, please give it a like and maybe consider subscribing so you don't miss out on our awesome upcoming content. And thank you so much for watching.